Welcome back. You're watching One on One. We're talking with MTV chief and UNAIDS activist Bill Roedy. Bill, I wanted to ask you about your transition from the Army into MTV. We talked a little bit about your life in the Army and your work at MTV. Now, what I wonder is what made you gravitate towards MTV, which was a very young channel at the time. It was disruptive technology. It was very unusual. What made you think you had a career there?
Well, I always loved television, and I just, I don't know, the power of television, the power to reach mass groups of people, and then if you do it right, to connect. Obviously, television does a lot of wrong things, so I don't know, I think it was just an opportunity to make a dent, if you will, change, maybe in a small way, the world.
What have been the interesting moments? What stuck in your mind from your career at MTV?
Yeah, there's been so many. I mean, it's great. I mean, when I first came to Europe to really, take this MTV Europe thing further, it was late '88, early '89, and there was just this tremendous sea change of political events happening in Eastern Europe, culminating in the wall coming down in East Berlin. And I discovered there were distribution opportunities for MTV during that winter and spring, so it really went for it. So we were actually well distributed in Eastern Europe as these changes were happening. It was quite something. And East Berlin, I was actually in East Berlin, I was invited to give a speech about East meets West, and it just happened to be the same week that the wall came down. And we were going to go to a reception. We did go to a reception with the Politburo attending and great celebration, and they didn't attend. They all resigned, and that was within, I don't know, 24 hours of when we actually hooked up MTV. Right. And we have this great picture of the East German soldiers on the wall with an MTV umbrella. And I think that accelerated the changes. And, I've had this privilege of being in Eastern Europe involved with NATO at one point, and then, fast forward 20 years later with television. And again, tongue-in-cheek, not to be taken too seriously, but I realized that there was much more power and influence with television than there were with weapons.
And it's ironic, here you were, a NATO soldier, but you ended up standing on the wall while it was being torn down.
Yes. Yeah, there's tremendous irony in that.
And you got to travel to a number of other places. You met a number of key people. I mean, you're dealing with people like Nelson Mandela and Fidel Castro. Tell me about those meetings. They're particularly interesting ones, I guess.
Well, I was very privileged. I mean, I'm privileged in this entire career. It's been just amazing. I've met, 20 or 30 heads of state and 5 Nobel Peace Prize winners. Nelson Mandela granted me an hour session alone. It was quite something. He told me some great stories. And this was in conjunction with our launch of MTV Africa, which was a very exciting launch for me. It was our 100th channel. You could trace the roots of almost all music back to Africa. There's a great connection emotionally from Africa to the rest of the world. So, we really got into it. And South Africa, is an amazing story, going successfully from apartheid and Nelson Mandela, just sitting there with him. And forgiveness was the big thing. He told me about the prison guards that were so harsh to him, wouldn't let him wear sunglasses when he worked in the quarry, had suffered permanent eye damage. And yet, at his inaugural, the first people he invited to the inaugural were the prison guards. So he really defines forgiveness, and Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which Bishop Tutu was in charge of, really defined, I think, the key success factor for why South Africa was able to make that transition and set a good model for other conflicts in other areas around the world. Fidel Castro, I've met him a couple of times, had a 5-hour lunch with him. He went through 2 interpreters.
And I gather he does have long lunches. So.
He has long lunches, he has long speeches, and his endurance factor is quite something. But he talks, 95%, and then the last 5%, what do you think? But it was very interesting. I mean, this is, an icon, if you will, even globally, but certainly within Cuba. But I think, it could go different angles on the meeting with him. But one of the things I've enjoyed most, obviously, was the request to use MTV and the music specifically to teach everyone in English. He professes 2 key messages. One is he has longevity, thanks to medical and literacy, and not only in Spanish, but he wants everyone to speak English. So he wanted music and MTV to teach the entire island English, and had the same thing in China. Met with Premier Jiang Zemin, and after tons of protocol in the Forbidden City, we sat down. The first words out of his mouth were MTV. And once again, using MTV music, really, not just in China, but around the world, to help people understand China better, which I thought was interesting.
How do you cope with issues of going global or going local, if you like, on a global level, when you're actually trying to go into countries like, for example, in the Middle East, and you have, the difficulty of establishing MTV Arabia, for example, where in some parts of the Middle East there are cultural, perhaps sometimes defined as religious, but usually cultural sensitivities towards music and pop videos and so
yeah.
on.
Well, it's a fine line, and we always don't get it right. By the way, the history is littered with mistakes, mostly mine. But we're very visible in the Islamic world now. It's quite something. We've been in Indonesia for, I don't know, many, many years. We have Call to Prayer on the channel in Indonesia.
5 times a day.
Eat 5 times a day, and we do portrayal of Ramadan in a youthful way. So we have fun with it, but we respect it, of course. And all programmed locally, not by us in New York or London. And we're in India, obviously to a Muslim population. We've tried to bridge that gap between Pakistan and India with common concerts, Pakistanis and Indians on the same stage. We did an earthquake relief show, and for the first time collaborated, artists. The music is essentially the same, Urdu, but obviously because of the political differences, it's been very apart. Some countries, Pakistan didn't even allow Indian music at one point. So I was in Karachi in November where we launched MTV Pakistan. We just added VH1 Pakistan. And also Turkey, again, fully localized, in this case Nickelodeon and MTV. And then the big one, this will be to potentially 35 million young Arabs from the start. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Egypt, UAE, really the whole region. So, the spotlight's on us. We really got to get this right. Cultural sensitivity is key. I was in Saudi last month, and, paying respect to everybody, describing our philosophy. The key is local. Not only local attitudes and local programming, but local people. Our partners and our management is all local. So they've got it. They got the reach. They'll define it, I feel confident, in an appropriate way.
Now, I know from seeing you in so many countries that you are on the road, as you say, a lot of the time. Where does that leave you time for yourself?
Well, the lines are blurred, really. It's a dream to do something you love so much, so it's not considered a job. Sounds a little cliche, but I think it's true. So for me, it's my life, really. And I just try and fit my life into this mission, if you will. It certainly has defined me. The challenge for me personally is the family, because I was a late starter.
And you have 4 kids
as well. I have 4 kids, and they're all below the age of 11, and I love them dearly, and I don't like being apart from them. I was apart from them and my wonderful wife this past weekend. So it's difficult, particularly on the weekends. I try and take them as much as possible, involve them as much as I can, but it's a tough one. That's a tough challenge.
Do you get any sort of quiet time, though? Do you get downtime where you can actually just chill out and listen to the music?
Well, I do listen to music quite a bit, and I tend to tap into the music depending on where I am around the world, so I take it back with me. I drive my wife crazy, and I might listen to, I don't know, Mandarin music for a week or Mexican music for a week and just really, really go for it. My latest favorite is a Mongolian group. It has operatic and rap mixed in. I brought some music actually back from Saudi Arabia, the Jedi Legends, which is some of the best rap music I've heard anywhere in the world, from Saudi Arabia. Doesn't have the angry lyrics. It's actually more nurturing lyrics.
Yet.
Yet. No, it's stress. I'm about ready to get married. What am I going to do? But there's one about his mother too. It's quite something, but it's great. It really is great. So, yeah, I think music offers a constant respite. But I think in the scheme of things, there is very little downtime, which is okay. I like the energy.
So what about the things you'd like to do, though, that you don't get a chance to? Is there anything outstanding that you would like to do?
Well, with these missions that we're on, we're not done. We have a lot of work to do on the epidemic of AIDS. Climate change, as I mentioned, has the potential to affect the entire world. It's reached a tipping point, I think, this issue, more quickly than others. AIDS, it took, years, it seemed, for it to even be covered by the media. Now it is, of course, but the public seems to be ahead of the government and the institutions on climate change. So, I think that's a good thing. But behavioral change is a challenge. And what I always say, small pieces. With a network like MTV, which almost 2 billion people, small things on a large group of people, small behavioral change on a large group of people equals a big thing. So if everybody turns their light out, like a small number of the big audience, it's equal to a big thing. So we can have an influence here. I still think we can go a long way on localizing our channels. Even though we're in 160 countries, we can go more vertical, and we can go more genre specific. So, you know, even though we've got a great run, we're the biggest, I still think the growth is actually ahead of us. So there's a lot more to do.
Bill, I wish you luck. Thank you very much. Great talking with you.
Thank you, Riz. Thank you.